Hi everyone. So welcome to the post-match analysis of today's semifinal between Nadal and Berrettini. And it looked like quite a straightforward match for Nadal when he started. And for the first two sets, it looked like, Nadal would run away with it. But then suddenly, Berrettini came back in the third set. He played some good tennis. But also, I think Nadal was tired, in the beginning of the third set, and it was quite evident he was not making the correct shots. Was trying to stay in the rally, but Berrettini, was trying to go for winners, and he was able to hit those. And the fourth set was a close one. I still, think that if Berrettini would have hung on to a few of the points, then it would have been a good five-setter. But it was not to be. Nadal was, strong in the end. Berrettini gave some chances, towards the business end of the set, and Nadal took them, and that's why he was able to beat Berrettini in four sets. So a good match, from Berrettini's standpoint, it's good that he was able to make a comeback, and for Nadal also it was good that he started off with a flyer and he played really well. So let's look at some of the stats. I mean, the stats are quite close if you see the total points won is 108 for Nadal and 96 for Berrettini. So it looks quite close, but it wasn't. If you see the first two sets, Nadal was clearly the big, favorite, and he was winning the points very easily. It looked like, he would win it in straight sets quite easily. But suddenly, in the third set, Berrettini came back and Nadal was a bit tired. And I think it's also because of the scoreboard. So if you see the match, right from the beginning, Nadal was on top of the match, winning, and Berrettini was always playing catch up. But in the third set, because Berrettini was serving first, and that gave the scoreboard pressure to Nadal, and he was not able to hit freely, and that helped Berrettini to gain some confidence. And maybe because he had nothing to lose and he already thought that maybe the worst is over, he started going for his shots, and that really helped Berrettini to gain the upper hand in that set. The aces, one would have expected that Berrettini would be the one, and he was. We hit 14 aces compared to Nadal's 5, made equal number of double faults. The first serve percentage was very good for both of the players. A win on first serve percentage was also equal. Second serve, one would expect that Nadal would be better in that category, and he was. Not too many break points faced by Nadal because he was playing really well from the get-go, and no tie breaks, of course. So I think all in all, the scoreboard looks quite close, but the first two sets were really straightforward. And in the third set, Berrettini played really well, and it looked like it could go to five sets, but it wasn't to be. So some analysis, that we found out, and it's quite simple. I mean, when you see the match and if you see Nadal play over the years, you'll know how he plays, what is his pattern of play, and what is his mindset. So we all talk about his backhand, his forehand down the line, how he, uses that pattern of play. But you have to understand that he does not use that on every point, because then he would become predictable. And that is something to do with his confidence. So if, for example, the scoreboard is in favor of Nadal, let's say Nadal is having a break point on the opponent's serve, then he would definitely use his forehand down the line, because it's a barometer of Nadal's confidence. And because he's up in the score, of course his confidence is higher and he can afford to take risks. And that is where he uses his forehand down the line more often than not, and he makes it because he's confident. But if you see when Nadal is down, let's say Nadal is on 15-30 on his own serve, and he has got the same opportunity, maybe 50 to 60% of the times he won't go for the forehand down the line because he's not confident, because he's down in the game. So he would still continue with the cross court forehand to the opponent's backhand and try to create an opening from there. So that is quite a difference. So as an opponent, I think it's quite clear that if you know the scoreboard, how the score is looking, and if you come into that specific situation, you can actually predict which shot Nadal would make. And over the years, I mean, if you have observed Nadal, you would understand that that is what he uses as a pattern of play. So the key factors in this match, I would say, were Berrettini's backhand. He was not, playing good in terms of the backhand, because obviously, his weakness is his backhand. And if you see, the backhand down the line was not working, and that was the main reason. I mean, if you cannot make the backhand down the line on a consistent basis against Nadal, then it is really, really going to be difficult for anyone to beat Nadal because that is a very important shot. And for Nadal, it's just bread and butter. I mean, if he hits a decent forehand, it is going to go, angled towards the backhand of the righty. And if you don't have a good backhand down the line as a righty player against Nadal, then it's going to be difficult. I'm not saying that it's the only thing, but it controls 60% of the match because Nadal will time and time again get you into that position and ask the question, will you be able to hit a backhand down the line? If the answer is no, then Nadal has the options, right? He can continue playing that pattern of play without expecting a backhand down the line from the opponent. And if you give it a short reply or if you give him any weak ball, then Nadal is going to be able to control the point because his other aspects like his cross-court backhand or his down the line backhand, his game at the net is all better than the opponent, right? So he has a lot of things to his disposal. He can use a lot of weapons. So it's up to the opponent to change his game plan if he has to beat Nadal. Now, I have mentioned Nadal's fitness over 5 sets a question because we have seen time and time again that, Nadal, after having a lead of 2 sets to love, sometimes he gets tired. And this has happened recently in, last 2 or 3 years. From last 2 or 3 years, we have been observing this. So that definitely raises a question that if a player, if an opponent is able to play at a good level for 3 or 4 sets. All these young players like Berrettini or Thiem or Tsitsipas, Medvedev, if these players can keep up their level for 4 sets continuously, then they definitely have a good chance of beating Nadal because Nadal is not the same player that he used to be a few years ago. So now you can obviously find that even against Tsitsipas after having a 2 set lead, Nadal went on to lose the match. And even today, and even in the last match against Shapovalov. So we can clearly see that after having 2 sets to love up, score, previously you could count Nadal to win the match 100%, but not now. And this is just because of his fitness. So that is definitely a question. And that just goes to show that even the top guys like Nadal, Djokovic, or Federer, once they have passed a certain age, then they cannot continue to keep up the good level of tennis for straight 5 sets. And that is the point that the youngsters should take note of, that if they can try to hang on into the match, they will have a real chance. Now, Berrettini's unforced errors in the first 2 sets were quite evident. Nadal usually starts off really well. He did so again, but Berrettini's unforced errors were not, were not expected. Maybe he was tired as well because of his last match, and it was, quite evident. Some of the shots where he could run around his backhand and hit his forehand, he was not doing that. He was still going for his backhand. So that was definitely one of the points. Then Nadal's presence of mind on big points, that was the key. So if you see one of the points, I'm just giving an example where Nadal was under pressure and he hit a good angled serve and unexpectedly he just ran up to the net to finish off the volley. Now that is great presence of mind because he knew that he's under pressure and he needs to change something. This is the same tactic that Djokovic has applied a lot of times against Federer. If you see the match against Federer in Wimbledon in 2019, now Djokovic lot of the times on break points, he just randomly decided to serve and volley. And it, really caught Federer off guard. And he sometimes Federer used slice or sometimes he blocked the return, but he made an error just because he was not expecting Djokovic to come forward in that pressure point. So the same happened here as well. Berrettini maybe did not expect Nadal to come to the net when Nadal was under pressure, but Nadal did. So it's a good presence of mind, good serving on big points really helped Nadal to win this match. And even Nadal's position of serve on return of serve was really good. If you see the US Open match that happened 3 years back, you could see Nadal standing, so far behind the baseline to return the serve. But in this match, if you compare it, you'll see that Nadal was standing way forward and he was really aggressive in his returns. So that also really helped Nadal. Now, this is the point that I'm trying to make. It's quite a simple analysis. If you see, so here it's a simple example. Look at the scoreboard. So even though Nadal is up 3-0, but the score line in this specific game is 15-30. So Berrettini has an upper hand in this game. Nadal is serving. And if you see this court position, this is the favorite pattern of play for Nadal. Now he hits a forehand. Berrettini is, pushed out of the court of the single sideline. And what options does Berrettini have now? He has to go down the line with his backhand. If he doesn't go that in that way, Nadal has an easy option to use his forehand down the line. So if you see here, now you can predict, as I mentioned before, that there is scenario based technique as well. So if you are Nadal, and if you see the scoreboard, you know that, okay, I am under pressure. I am at 15:30. So do I have the confidence to hit the forehand down the line? Probably not, because I'm down in the game. So, and this is what exactly happened. If you see the actual match, Nadal did not go for his forehand down the line. Even with in this position, that is clearly visible that he should go for his forehand down the line, but he did not go because of the score line. So he went for the cross court forehand, and that actually helped Berrettini to stay in this point. And if you are Nadal, and let's say if it would have been 15:30 to Nadal's advantage on Berrettini's serve, definitely he would have gone for the forehand down the line. So that is the difference. So Nadal loves this pattern of play, but he also has the other option. He also can look at the scoreboard and decide whether to use this shot or not. And that is what I think the opponents should also understand. So in this way, it's fine, even if Berrettini goes cross court, because Nadal might not go for that shot because he's down in the game. But when Berrettini is down, he has to understand that, he has to take the risk. He has to go for the down the line backhand, even if he misses it, or he can go for a slice. He can go for a quick slice down the line so that, at least this pattern of play is avoided. Because if Nadal is up in the scoreboard, and if you are in this position, as mentioned, definitely Nadal will go for his forehand down the line, and he will more often than not make it because he's confident, right? And similarly, if you compare it with Nadal, now Nadal is quite clear. There is a simple rule, I think, that Nadal understands, and I think all the other opponents have also to understand that if you are pushed outside the singles sideline, so as you can see here, Nadal's court position is just outside the singles sideline. So then you don't have any other option. You either have to go for broke on the backhand down the line, like Nadal did here, or you have to use your slice again down the line, so that at least you get the time to recover, because you can see the position is the same position that Berrettini was. His body is outwards toward the court, so definitely he will need some more time to recover. And as such, if you hit cross court, then you don't have the time. So Nadal, you can see multiple examples in the same match. Whenever Nadal was pushed into this position, he always went for his backhand down the line. Maybe not, uh, a powerful shot every time, but at least he went in this direction only. Whether he used a slice or whether he used a top spin, decent backhand, or whether he, went for a winner, it doesn't matter. But he always chose this direction. This is, I think, the major difference that the opponents also have to play. Now, obviously, Nadal has a very good backhand. Berrettini might not have that good a backhand, but this is what the change that you have to make against Nadal. If it's against any other player, I mean, you can probably stick to your strengths, but if you're playing against Nadal or Djokovic or Federer, then you have to play according to their strengths and weaknesses as well. Because, no matter how well you play, you see Berrettini has a huge serve, great forehand, but still it doesn't count for anything because of these patterns of play. So you have to make changes when you are playing against Nadal. And this is what I think Djokovic does quite well. Federer does it sometimes, but I think all the other players really show a great disparity, between top three players and the other top 10 players, because they cannot, make this sort of pattern of play, use to their advantage. Again, another similar example, as I mentioned, this is a different time, the score line, you can see the time, on the clock. So again, when Nadal is pushed outside the single sideline, he has to go for broke. He goes for that shot and he makes it. If he would have gone, to the red arrow direction, obviously Berrettini would have a chance to hit a winner or maybe control the point from there on. And another example. So I think it's quite evident that this is one of the points that the opponents have to take note of, that the backhand down the line is a very important shot. And the second point is that against Nadal, you have to control your unforced errors, stick to the basics, and just try to stay in the match. Because from the last 2 or 3 years, we have seen that if you could take a set away from Nadal, then maybe Nadal can get tired as well, and you can continue to play well, and maybe you can also win the match. So these are two important points: backhand on the line and staying, in the match with Nadal, not letting him get away in, three straight sets. I think that is something that Medvedev or Tsitsipas should take note of. And Tsitsipas has already beaten Nadal last year with the same conditions, and I would say the same uh, pattern as well, where he was down 2 sets to love, but he was able to make a comeback just because maybe I think Nadal was out of gas. So, so I hope you like the analysis, and thanks for watching.